Welcome back to this edition of Minstrels on the Block with David Schwimmer. So, David, there's a couple of questions I like to ask in this show. One is, what do you think of the local music scene in the Valley?
Okay, sure. It's better than I think most people know who aren't musicians. Mm-hmm. There's some really good people. I really got struck a couple of years ago, maybe 3. We had essentially a wake for Mac McCormick.
Oh, I remember that.
And I was just amazed at the talent. We played at the Loft, and some people came as far as Birmingham. He was incredible, and he was playing one of Mac's guitars. Mm-hmm. I was just incredibly impressed by the kind of talent there was. And at a lot of the open mics I go to and places I listen to, we have great musicians here.
Yeah.
And of course, we all know that the venues aren't as profitable as we'd like.
Yeah. And
it's tough to get gigs, and that's the complaint of musicians everywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you're in one of the maybe 4 or 5 really big metropolitan areas, it's tough. The music scene is much better than people think who aren't musicians.
You're right.
And so overall, there's always someone to hear, and what I discovered is always somewhere to play if you want to.
Yeah.
Which is, I did not realize it. I put away my instruments for quite a few years when I was basically developing my teaching career. It's only about 10 years ago I started, maybe a little longer, I started playing again a lot, and that was when the open mics appeared. It's when I met Henry and people at Loft first and the other places. And I've learned more and more about it, although I'm not sure I'm central to the music scene as much as you are, perhaps, or Rusty. But it's better than most people would know. And actually, another long-term plan, Henry and I talked about the idea of considering producing a show to put on one of the public radio stations.
That would be cool.
Chattahoochee Valley Music or some name like that. That would be an incredible thing of getting local musicians together, put on a show, tiny bit of background and such, just to showcase the local talent.
It would be great.
Yeah. Facilities, a coordinator. I'm not a great organizer, unfortunately. If I were, I would be doing this right now.
Yeah.
Kind of hope someone maybe like with the studio, maybe you, Rick Edwards, one of the people who's got the facilities to get people in, record a session, do a nice segue to another session, put together a half hour, maybe an hour show, and then sell it to the public radio stations. Georgia Public Radio, I'm sure they'd be interested. They're there. And I bet you could produce some really good talent. Singer-songwriters, local stuff.
Well, that's definitely something to look into.
That would be a great thing. I'd be more than willing to do voiceover or to help with it. Or
cool.
I've done radio voiceovers. I wouldn't, or getting someone or helping someone or writing script. That kind of stuff would be really cool.
Oh, we'll definitely be thinking about that.
Yeah.
The next question I ask, we'll talk about that off the camera where nobody's watching, so we can connive and scheme.
Yeah, sure.
But for singers or players sitting out there, aspiring artists, what would you tell an aspiring artist watching this show?
To be perfectly blunt, and I do tend to be blunt, make sure you have a day job first.
Yeah.
Or a means of support.
Yeah.
Because it is incredibly hard to make a living as a musician. It's virtually impossible, although it is possible if you're the best of the best of the best. But it takes a while to become the best of the best. So when we see all these people on TV who are famous, making millions, you think about populations. There are 300 million people in this country, and you could probably name 20 who are, tops. Think of your odds. So make sure you're supported, and then just do what you're interested in doing, and I would advise, don't try to tailor your music to what you think is going to sell, because by the time you create it, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
Almost all fields, by the time you hear about it, it's too late.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do and do what you do best, and hope you hit the right thing.
Right, yes.
That's my advice. So, stay true to your muse.
Yes.
Whatever kind of music you want to get into, whatever appeals to you, stick with that one.
Don't follow somebody, be yourself.
Right. Because you're not going to do well by changing your mood and your sense.
One other question
Sure.
before we get to the next David Schwimmer song. David Schwimmer, tell me about Friends.
You know, I only know that I have the same name as the lead actor, Ross, and the other weird coincidence is that Ross's stage career is what I do. And we're both from New York. Well, Ross was in New York. I'm from New York. Ross was supposed to be a vertebrate paleontologist at the American Museum. I'm a research associate at the American Museum. I'm a vertebrate paleontologist with the same name as the actor. You know, go figure. And I have been asked so many times, is it coincidence? I don't know.
You just don't come across a coincidence like that every day, and I had to share it with everybody.
What I figured years ago, but I can't prove it, is I'm listed in some who's who kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Anyone in my business is going to be in there if you're a college professor and you have books and things. So I would presume the actors, public relations people were looking for some job hook for the character, looked under the same name, came across this, well, duh.
Yeah. Well,
there's also a doctor who teaches at Harvard University named David Schwimmer.
Oh, wow.
But that probably wouldn't have made a very good character. So, you know, I probably was the next in line.
Well, that is really, really cool coincidence, if it's a coincidence. Yeah. And David, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
My pleasure.
And hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. We're going to finish up with another of David's songs, and I'm Brian Mallard for Minstrels on the Block.
I Love My Truck, it's called. It's a song in the works. I haven't gotten very far, but the notion came to me of starting it out. I love my truck, and sometimes my wife. I've had 2 or 3 at times in my life. Well, sometimes life's great, and sometimes it sucks. But one thing a man can always enjoy, I love my truck. When I was 17, I got my first girl, and I've got me a Chevy. Made my whole world. But then she left. The truck wouldn't start. Broke my heart and broke my wallet. It's all a song too, it's been rough. Well, I love my truck, and sometimes my wife. I had 1 or 2 of each times of my life. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it sucks. Life can be hard on a man, but I love my truck.